What's going on, guys? My name is RagingRaptor and I welcome you to a new World of Tanks video. And today I want to give you my first impression of this big Sandbox test server new balance test thingy. Today I was streaming a little bit on this test server, was playing some games, people which asked me what to play and so on and so forth. And so I did that, and now after 19 games I personally can already say my first impression. I do want to point out that it doesn't really differ from what I had already thought will happen before this new rebalancing came. And there are some key things I want to talk about. And I think the best thing we should talk about first is the Tech tree reshuffle. I'm going to go quickly through all of those so you can see for yourself what exactly changed. I can already tell you that there are several tanks missing, and I have a list of those in the comment section below, thankfully done by Werx from the Armor Patrol. Okay, the issue is, however, there are some things we don't know yet. We do know that everything below and including tier 5 will become collector vehicle. So for example, if you go into the American tech tree, which was also the example in the World of Tanks video, you will note that the T67 is missing. The T67 sooner or later will then be a collector's vehicle, meaning that in a specific store page, which sadly right now is not working, but this was already communicated, you can have and buy for yourself. So we could go here to 5 and so on and so forth. You could buy it in its collector section. Important to note that the low tier collector's tanks, they do not count as, oops, that's the wrong one. I want to get, where is it? There. The low tier collector's tank do not count as the high tier collector's tank. Everything above tier 6 and including tier 6, those tanks which got removed have a different status. As of the recording of this video, we do not know yet how exactly this tank will be able to get. That is, in my opinion, a little bit of an issue that Wargaming didn't communicate it properly. But everything low tier. So for example, if you want to get the T67 again and you don't have it yet, for example, you don't have it yet, are new to the game and this new update came around. You have to achieve at least tier 6 on this respective tech tree. So you are allowed to go to that special, what should we say, collector's edition, collector's section in the shop to buy the low tier tanks. So for example, if you want to have the Panzer 1C or the Hetzer, which are two iconic vehicles of the German tech tree, you would at least need to get a tier 6 vehicle before you can buy them in the collector section of the store. Again, this collector section of the store right now is not working, so keep that in mind. It's important to note that all the collector's tanks, you have to grind through them. You can buy them all at the same time. That's not the point, or that's not the problem, but you have to grind them out. So for example, with the T67, you would need to get the turret first, the gun first, and so on and so forth. It's like a normal tank in that sense. So this low tier reshuffle is, in my opinion, not too big of an issue. I don't really think it was necessary, because I'm going to quote Ducky there. It is not that hard to follow one single arrow. That is true. It also allows you to have a little bit of planning in the end. You have to do a little bit of planning of what tank you exactly want to get. So I do think that it is a little bit unnecessary, but I don't really see this as a huge problem. The huge problem right now is, again, why is it necessary? Why exactly, or what is going to happen to tier 6 vehicles? Because again, the tier 6 plus vehicles, and I'm having here a quick little picture which was shown in the video Wargaming showed us. We have all those tanks which got removed. KV-85, KV-13, T-62A, VKD, JPanther II, T-21, Jumbo Sherman, T-71D, A, AMX-30, AMX-30B, the Firefly obviously, and the Churchill game carrier, as well as the 113. That is, in my opinion, a very interesting choice of tank, and this is important. all those vehicles, we again do not know how we are going to get them at later. They teased us with that, but they didn't told us what exactly is going to happen with those vehicles. Important, however, is that those vehicles will be changed into a reward category. This means the T62, all those vehicles right here, which you see right there, will behave like a 907, like the Object 260, like the Object 279, like the M60, like the T55A, like the Chimera, like the Excalibur. It will behave exactly like a reward vehicle, meaning you will get additional experience for your crew, but you will not get additional credits or experience in general. You can put whatever crew you want on those vehicles without any repercussions. You do not get any minus points in your crew. So for example, right now you can see the AMX 30B is now in this yellowish or orangish reward state, and you can see I can put in a tanker from the Batshot 25T without getting any minus points. So again, they're going to behave exactly like a reward vehicle. This is, in my opinion, pretty cool because in this list there are some unique vehicles in my opinion, but again, I want to point out why exactly is it necessary. This is my biggest concern. I do understand Wargaming wants to make it easier for new players, but then again, why is it necessary? Why is it necessary to take out iconic vehicles of those tech trees? I really do not think it was necessary, but, and this is the most important thing, I don't mind it that much. Just tell us what exactly you're going to do with those tanks being removed. If they're going to be again black market vehicles, I don't like it. Are they going to be again missions for those vehicles? That wouldn't be nice in my opinion. What is going to happen to people which already have researched those vehicles? Do we get instant access to those vehicles? Do we have a separate section in the shop where we can buy those vehicles? Those are things right now we do not have answers to yet, and sadly weren't yet answered because they simply did not know the answer when we asked in the community contributor Discord. So, with the tech tree out of the way, I want to go into the ammunition rework. And I have to say, there are pros and cons to it. The pros are obviously you want to shoot now AP rounds because they do the most amount of damage. And I do see that in most cases it's healthier for the game, but, and here comes the big but. For example, tanks like the 279, 430U, Chieftain, Cockwearer, all those tanks will get increasingly stronger, and I'm sure if you start to watch Daki, which is an incredible good player on the Chieftain, on the Super Cockwearer, he knows and he shows you how dominating he can be on those tanks. So this is already, in my opinion, a big issue. I also asked a question asking how quickly are you going to change tanks after this hits live server, and they said pretty quickly because there has to be balance being restored, because this change may or may not cause some tanks we do not know yet getting buffed and other tanks getting nerfed. One of those tanks which in my opinion got nerfed and buffed at the same time is the stage 2 you see right in front of you. Because it is important to know, and I think you already saw it, every single HE in the game, except for artillery, which I still don't understand, and the KV2, because the KV2 and the KV2 are, they, they do not have any penetration anymore. Only RT and KV2R, they are the only tanks in the game right now which will have penetration on their HE rounds. So now if we take as an example the FV stage 2, you can see that its AP round has around an alpha of 1440. That is more than enough to two-shot most tier 10 tanks, or medium tanks at least, in the game, which is pretty strong if you think about it. The premium hash, however, got nerfed significantly, even though they said it will have roughly the same effectiveness. Sadly enough, I have to say that after my testing, I did not see this in action one bit. It is very inconsistent and knowing when exactly how much your HE is going to do. In most cases, I did around 700 HE damage with the hash round. Keep in mind, it sounds familiar as something we have on the live server already. But, and there's the big but, those tanks all got around a 12 to 20% HP increase. Again, keep that in mind, that most tanks got around a 20% HP increase. So you doing the same amount of damage on the same amount of targets on the Sandbox server is effectively a nerf of 20% on the live server. So that is a huge nerf to the stage 2. Obviously, I understand that a lot of people do not like the one-shotting game style. I don't like it either. I'm not a big fan of playing the tank, nor am I a big fan of being on the receiving end of the tank. But those tanks effectively lost their unique trademark of being able to dish out high-risk, high-reward damage. And this is something you'll notice throughout the whole game. One, in my opinion, very stupid thing which now happened is that RT also got an HP increase, meaning that right now you have situations where on live server you can load HE rounds and kill one artillery piece with one shot when you penetrate, which is now not the case anymore because most tier 10 heavies, mediums and lights do not have enough alpha on their standard rounds to one-shot artillery pieces. Maybe the bad shot, but as you can see, even the Chieftain with its former 440 alpha and now 540 has still not enough alpha to one-shot the Batchatillon artillery, the artillery piece which has the lowest amount of hit points. So yeah, that is already a big step backwards in my opinion, as it takes away of the skill of just knowing what to do. And I see what's going on out there. It's something I really do not like. It's something I really do not like, taking away the penetration of HE on all the tanks except for RD and KV2. I understand that we can argue about maybe making stage 2's hash rounds less effective, but this change, it takes in everyone. EBRs, and I guess this is a huge shout out for all the people which dislike EBRs and their HE. I'm actually not against this change because it's a decent change for EBRs because it takes away some of their dominance against other lightly armored vehicles. But this also includes tanks like the HWK-30, tanks like the MUTs. All those tanks which have as their gimmick hash rounds, they lose it. And this is just something I hate a lot. Also, fun fact, I was playing a game of HE E100 only, and I was shooting at the side of a 268 version 4. And I did 0 damage. I don't know if this is a bug or not, but that is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. I understand that they want to take away of effectiveness of HEs, but I still think this is the wrong approach. Why exactly am I not allowed to punish lightly armored vehicles? Why am I not allowed to punish an FV stage 2 which has a 14mm turret? Like, if we now take the E100 as an example, in the current iteration, if the FV pens you, he deals around 1100 damage. You can pen him back for 930 or 950 on the live server. In the current situation, he's doing almost 1500 damage towards your turret, while you will do maximum of 930. That is a much bigger difference than what you have on live server. And it takes away, in my opinion, of the challenge of trying to use HE as an effective armor type. It's very saddening, and I want to go in more detail in another video where I'm going to completely give a feedback about the whole thing. Again, this is just my first impression, which is taking way too long already. But yeah, in the end, if you just sum it up, HE became absolutely useless. In 99% of the cases, it became incredibly useless. Sure, for decapping, it's there. For killing a very, 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 very low life HP target, it's good. But the main use, in my opinion, for HE was there to punish lightly armored vehicles like Gorilla 15, like the rears of a Chieftain, and so on and so forth. This is now gone. And this is very, very sad. Another thing which is about the armor rework, or the ammo rework, about artillery. Again, artillery keeps their penetration. Oh, and they keep their new AP rounds. I do want to point out that the economy, okay, we're going to talk about this in just a second, but you now have to decide between standard HE, which deals moderate damage, and premium HE, which now will deal more damage but doesn't stun anymore. I like that change that Wargaming tries to go, but why exactly does the more damaging HE has to cost 8,000? Is this a mistake, or is this willingly? I like the change because this makes artillery having to think now, should I go for stun and be a team player? Or should I go for just damage because I'm a dickhead? Again, the damage is roughly the same as we have right now on the live server when you take the non-stunning gun HE. But taking the stunning HE, you will lose effectively around 20% damage compared to the live server. That is okay. And that is something I am genuinely looking forward to, because I do think that at the moment artillery is a little bit overperforming with having stun and damage at the same time. One thing I still dislike is what our Wargaming did with AP rounds. I do not see the point in them. Quite simple. They have huge amounts, or they have a big amount of module damage, which could lead to different ammo racks, full HP ammo racks, mind you, if you're lucky, and more randomness. Second, I asked, will artillery be more accurate with AP? Because let's be honest, the main gist about artillery is to be splash, like to be area effect. If you are shooting AP rounds in something like the T92, you are wildly not suitable. You are actively hindering your team, because with 0.75 accuracy, you're not going to hit many things. And again, you have to be lucky to hit, or you bounce because you simply just ricochet off because of auto bounce mechanics. I like that Wargaming wants to introduce differences to artillery, make it more challenging to play. But adding AP, I simply do not see why. You're still highly inaccurate, you're actively hindering your team in winning, you do less damage than most times when you're just shooting premium HE, and the premium HE actually, has area of effect, so you can splash multiple targets. So yeah, I don't see why exactly. I like the concept, I like the idea, but why exactly do we have this? Maybe make AP more accurate, who knows? Maybe it's not a good idea. Now, let's focus on the economy, because it's also something Wargaming said about. Yes, artillery looks decently sized. But then again, it looks like premium rounds or special rounds weren't touched at all. Here we have the stage 2 hash, which still cost 8,000 credits for being far less effective than the AP rounds. Why exactly is that a thing? I don't get it. Why exactly is this a thing? I hope this is a mistake which is going to get changed. In general, why exactly are premium rounds still so much more expensive even though they do less damage? I don't see exactly why, because that would conclude that really this update would make a lot more games more expensive. So yeah, I hope this is a mistake there, but I'm not entirely sure. We don't know yet. That's just a little segment I wanted to talk about. Lastly, there were some changes to season statistics, and I have to say, okay, not much else to say. Sure, it's alright, but again, it's just alright. I'll take it, but there is no point in focusing on it. Concluding is, I don't dislike the changes which were done to HP and to the tech trees. I see why exactly Wargaming would try to introduce those changes, but the biggest problem is I have with HE and in general that so many tanks still lack proper weak spots. And this lack of proper weak spots will make those tanks much more stronger. With HE being less of an option to actively counter people which are like hull down memes in their chieftains, 430Us and so on and so forth, you actually have to shoot premium rounds, you know? And even with premium rounds, you're not guaranteed to penetrate. Especially on the tanks like the Chieftain and the 430U. While the 430U and the Chieftain are able to just spam back their much more potent standard rounds at you, giving them an effective, much better DPM than you have. And that is my biggest issue with that thing. I like the idea, I understand where Wargaming is going to, but we still don't have any weak spots. So why do it anyway? It makes, to me personally, sadly, no real sense. When so many tanks still lack proper weak spots, why exactly do we now then introduce a system which rewards tanks with not having weak spots? It actively rewards tanks like the Object 268 version 4 to be even stronger. You know, I actually think this is a huge buff to the 268 version 4 because its cupola is effectively as thick as most tanks have penetration. And the lower plate is a choke to hit, you know? That it makes this tank so much more potent, so much stronger. This tank, sure, the cupolas are weak spots, but good luck hitting them when he's trying to stay hull down. The only real way to penetrate him was this lip with premium rounds, or from above with premium rounds. Effectively, it makes this tank even better, you know? It makes this tank actively better. And I don't really see if this was really the point. 430U, good luck penetrating this 330mm cupola, you know? Now, this is my biggest issue with this, to be honest. This is my absolute biggest issue. It buffs tanks which didn't need a buff. Sure, it's a buff to tanks like the E100, don't get me wrong. But I don't dislike that. I dislike that. Why exactly buff those tanks? It's an indirect buff to those tanks. And it's also an indirect buff to lightly armored vehicles because you can't punish them with HE anymore. So again, if you're thinking, oh, look at there's a FV, you can't punish him. You simply have to shoot standard rounds and get slaughtered by him, basically, in 2 shots. Because, you know, right now on the live server, you can use your HE to punish artillery, punish FVs, punish light tanks, punish the rears of enemies, and so on and so forth. And right now, this is not the case anymore. And I simply hate this. But yeah, that is my first impression of the Sandbox server. I really want to do another video about this where I go in more detail to actively try and explain why exactly, what is going on, and why I think some changes are very, very bad. And in general, very bad for the game health. I still think that adding more HP to higher tiers is a mistake. So is that more alpha is around for standard rounds. Why not reduce the alpha of premium rounds and leave anything as is? It's so much simpler for players to start learning those values again, in my opinion. Seriously, right now we literally have to get to know every single standard round alpha again. I have to learn basically every single standard alpha round, period. And let's be honest, I think that most players which play World of Tanks, at least in the German community, are older. And I don't really think that they want to do that. To learn everything again, you know? Hence, again, I want to make it more clearly in another video. That's just my first impression. And first impression is, I'm not happy. I'm genuinely not happy. I do accept the changes to the tech tree. I still don't see why, but it buffs tanks like this. And I know that there are people out there which are just like aching to fap and to enlarge their EPness by tanks which other people have no chance penetrating in. I'm luckily not one of them. I don't really see the point in it because it's just stupid. I want to have fun in the game and I want to have that other players also have fun in the game. But yeah, that's my first impression. My name is RagingRaptor. Thank you so much for listening to the whole video. I hope to see you in another video. If so, let me know in the comment section below what you think about those changes. If you have any questions, let me know. I think right now I have a pretty decent understanding what happens. Just let me know in the comment section below what your question is. I try to answer it. And thank you so much. I hope I will be able to make a video until Friday to give my final feedback on this. Also with feedback from you. Cheers guys, thanks so much for sitting through me rambling.